Okay, so we're here at Project Challenge again. Welcome to the Red Corner. New settee and everything. So we are here just for one day this time, and I've got some people on the stand at the moment, so I'll just come and talk around them. But so today we've got the normal stuff we have on the walls. So we've got 2 questions going on. What would you want to automate in the PMO, or if you've already automated something, what have you automated? So we want to know what people are doing around the whole subject around AIE stuff. Other questions about what would you like your PMO to start doing? So again, we're just interested in where some PMOs are doing some, thinking about doing new things, or in an ideal world, if they had all the money in the world, all the time in the world, ideally what they'd like to start doing. So we'll come back later and we'll be able to show you some of that. Some of the things that we're talking about and people are picking up, are loving all the stickers and bump and stuff which they normally like. Training courses, we've got new materials about some of the things that we're doing there, short courses, certification stuff as well. So a lot of interest as ever, which is great. So yeah, we'll come back later on and we'll have a look at what other people have been putting on the walls. Okay, thank you.
Hello, so we're at the end of the day at Project Challenge here in London, and I just wanted to give you a quick recap of some of the things that we've been collecting on our walls here. 2 things that we were asking for people to come and contribute. First thing was about how and what you would automate in your PMO. If you've been kind of keeping up with what we've been talking about, we're really trying to open PMO's eyes up around robotic process automation and being a data-driven PMO. And this question was really about what would it be that you wanted to automate, and really there's kind of not a huge number of surprises here. A lot of it is about the whole kind of reporting aspect. Interestingly, a lot of it around the financial reporting, which is an ideal place for doing robotic process automation, the financial analysis stuff. Health status reporting, resource and time management. So a lot of the kind of work that takes up an awful lot of our time in PMOs to actually kind of collate, and let's have a look at kind of how we can kind of automate some of that so we can do the value add bit in terms of actually understanding what the data is trying to tell us, but also then helping the project program managers and senior execs to start understanding what decisions and what actions need to be taken to help their projects and programs be even more successful. And I'm just going to kind of call out, we've got an event on the Friday the 22nd of November, and what we're going to do is we're going to call together a number of PMO managers who've actually done quite a bit of automation in their organisations, and we're going to get some hints and tips and learn of their experiences. And if you're here at the next Project Challenge in March, we'll be presenting that back out to the community of people who've actually done that and been successful. And if you're somebody who's in that position, so you're a PMO manager who's actually kind of done some automation and you want to come along to our lunch, do get in touch via the PMO Flashmob website and we'll be happy to talk to you. So the second thing that we were asked to do was, what do you want your PMO to start doing? And this is really an interesting bit in terms of who we've had filling in the wall. Now, as you know, we're a PMO focused organisation, but actually we've had some project and programme managers come who said, actually, we want our PMOs to start doing things for us. We want them to deliver some new services that actually currently they're not delivering. So interestingly, some of the things that we think are pretty kind of standard things around PMOs, this whole kind of concept of risk management, but actually the important bit is about moving away from actually doing the risk administration to really helping both the projects and the programs understand the risk to the organisation of late delivery of the project, but also the risk of delivery of the benefits to the organisation. There's really, which a lot of the conversations in terms of what the project and program managers want is really stop being the police, actually help us to do things rather than just tell us how not to do things and tell us how badly we are at doing the things you want us to do. So that's really a lot of the key messages, and it's good to see that some of the things that actually where we've developed training courses in PMO learning have continued to come up. So more advice on coaching for the project managers, the whole benefits management aspect, and some around the project prioritisation, which we cover off in the setting up of a PMO course. So hopefully we'll kind of take some of this and we'll kind of feed that back and help you as PMOs to start doing these things for your project and program managers and for your organisations.
I'm going to be talking to you about getting ahead in your PMO career. So I'm going to do something that probably sounds really daft, but how many people here are working in some kind of PMO role of some description? Okay, any other ones that are not putting your hand up? Yeah, I suppose you're here for the ride, because this is all going to be about PMO careers. And but just before we get into all of that, just a little bit about me and why I'm standing here in front of you today talking about PMO and careers. I am basically used to work in PMO many years ago, and after I'd been working in PMOs, I just had the opportunity to start a business, which is Alice People, which is stand over there, which is all about project management, recruitment, and PMO. So for a number of years, I've been involved in PMO recruitment. So I worked in it, then went onto the recruitment side of it, and at the same time as all of that, I've been involved in things around PMO networking, getting people together, getting people talking about PMO stuff. So out of that is Flash Mob and PMO Learning, which hopefully you've seen the stand because it's bright red. And if you've not seen it, by the end of this session, hopefully you'll go back and have a look. But what's going to happen during this session, PMO Learning training company, we do certification training and 1 and 2 day courses. We've got a prize giveaway for the show today, which is a free place on a 1 day course. So I've got some little fairies around here that have got a clipboard. If you've not already filled out a form for us today, if you want to go in that drawer, I'm going to draw it at the end of the presentation. So there's a clipboard that will come round. So if you're interested, make sure your details are on there because it's going to go in the magic bag, and we're going to draw that at the end of the session. Which means you're also going to have to listen and sit through this entire session. But that's not a bad thing. So what I've said in the show brochure is that it's getting ahead in your PMO career, and I wanted to touch on lots of different things. So you go to these sessions and people have just got like one thing that they're wanting to tell you about, and they say in presentation skills courses that a great intro and tell everybody out to who, what, why, where, when, and give them the solutions at the end and all that kind of stuff. Not doing that. It's a bit like licky dip. So that's what we're going for, and hopefully it'll hold your attention. So if you're not interested in one of these things, you can drift for a bit and then you can come back and get onto the next point. Okay, so it's a bit of everything. So I'm going to start at the place where a lot of you may need this kind of stuff right now. I could stand and talk about CVs for 3 hours, but so I've done, thinking about the session today, is just pick out one bit of the whole CV thing. Now if you're interested in more of the CV type advice stuff that I'm giving you, and you think, oh, that sounds all right, we've got loads of stuff through Flash Mob, through PMO Learning. You can get in touch with me and we can do other stuff one-to-one, yeah? So I'm going to try and do something where we look at career histories that will touch something for each one of you, even though all of you are individuals and different careers and all the rest of it, but I'm sure there'll be something in this when I start to talk about it that you'll think, okay, actually, in my CV or in my career, I think I know how I might apply that. So we'll give it a go. So we're going to look at the career history bit of the CV, okay? And these are the 6 things that I want to talk about in terms of how you write a great CV for recruitment agencies, line managers, whoever it is that's recruiting for PMO, and give you some insights into what makes a great CV in the career history part. So I'm not going to talk about the profiles, and I'm not really going to go into things like how you talk about key achievements and how to format it and all that kind of stuff. Let's just go to the meat, the bit that actually gets people the job. Okay, so with the career history part of the CV, what's really interesting when it comes to PMO people is that we often know inside and out what it is that we do, but we find it incredibly difficult to articulate that to people that may know PMO or they may not, when actually you'll never know
When you're writing your CV, you have no clue who's going to pick that CV up and whether they're going to be somebody that gets PMO or somebody that doesn't. So what we're trying to do with something, this document has got to appeal to a lot of people. So with the career history bit, I want to just talk about what works. So like I said, I've been in recruitment around PMO, recruiting for PMO people for the last 17 years. So there's quite a lot of CVs I've seen in that time. And I just want to talk about some of the ones that do a great job. So thinking about that bit in your CV where you start to talk about your current or your past roles, what I want people to think about is provide the context for the role it is that you've been doing. What I mean by that is that we see PMOs everywhere. So if you imagine somebody opening up that CV and they see straight at the top, PMO manager, worked here at this organisation for X number of years. The very first opening line is, give them some context to what this PMO does. Tell them what kind of PMO it is. So for example, you would open up something like working within a programme office that's supporting a X pounds programme to do transformation of blah, 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 whatever. Yeah? It's that context of the PMO that makes the rest of the CV make sense. Because regardless of who's reading it, whether it's an HR specialist or a recruitment agent or whoever, they get to know and understand which part of the business you're in. So for example, I get a lot of people that come to the stand today that are talking about their PMOs and they'll talk about, oh, it's an IT one, or it's not IT, it does this. And it's that bit, you say it naturally when you're talking to people, but you don't do it or neglect to do it in a CV. And it makes total sense, because if I'm going to recruit for somebody for a program type PMO, and I'm looking for a PMO analyst with program experience, and I get a CV that's just PMO analyst and gives me no context. Are you in a project one, a program one, a portfolio one, an EPMO? Why are you in? So I can't make a decision on what I'm then going to read about your roles and responsibilities if I don't understand the context that it's in. And when you're recruiting, you need a mental picture of the person that you're looking at on the CV. You naturally do it. You know, I've been in PMOs myself, so when I'm looking at CVs, I'm thinking, right, okay, I can look at this CV and understand, because the context they're being given to me, I think I've got a bit of a mental picture about what they've been doing. So that gives me something in order to be able to talk to them about and to clarify. So you're providing a mental picture when you create that context for somebody. And then what you're going to do is start to think about the functions and services of the PMO that you're in. This is where we're going now with PMO. I mean, how many people today, again, have talked about, well, you know, the PMO event's quite admin, quite support. But actually, where it's going is very much about PMO as a service. Yeah, that's the conversations that we're having now with people that are in decent PMOs. So if you're sitting here today and say, well, actually, you know, my PMO is quite decent, that's great. But actually, there's probably a lot more people that are saying, you know, my PMO is not that great. And part of the thing is about being able to show the functions and services of which your experiences and your skills and competency and all that kind of stuff is based on now PMO as a service. So what we're talking about when we talk about functions and services, the best way to, if you're not clear on, if I had somebody say to you, okay, so in your PMO, tell me about one of the functions that you have and tell me about what some of the services that you offer. Can you come straight back to me and say, well, actually, yeah, we provide these functions and these are the kind of services we've got? How many people here who are working in a PMO have a service catalogue for their PMO? Okay, that's two of you, I think. Wow. Okay, so a PMO function would be something like risk management or planning. Yeah? The service would be the services that you offer around that. So for example, risk management, the service might be risk management facilitation for workshops. That's the model we're going for. Yeah, that's the kind of thing now. But when you're looking to move on in your career to a decent PMO job, this is what we're talking about here. We're not interested in these organisations that don't get it. You're always going to get those, but this conversation is about getting ahead in PMO, right? So for the decent PMOs that are out there, they're interested in what your skills and capabilities are around key functions and services. So if you're not showing on your CV where your key functions and services experience is, they can't make a call on what kind of PMO person you are. Yeah? So we're going to show functions and services on a CV, which is around the roles and responsibilities that you have. And then from that, we can start to get into some of the skills and competencies that you provide around those functions and services. Yeah? So we're getting into the how you do the job and what kind of things you do. So for example, when you're going for a PMO role, it doesn't matter if I give you an example for a PMO manager or an analyst or a project support officer, it doesn't matter. But when it comes to things like wanting to understand, okay, so here's a function planning, I want to understand what kind of services you've got involved in. You know, the service could be that you put a particular service in place, or it could be that you worked with that service. So in other words, planning, you know, at a very junior level, project support officer, the kind of thing that you've done is you probably maintain the Gantt chart. Yeah? So there's some skills and experience around that required in order to be able to do this. This is the level of detail that we need to be showing as a PMO practitioner at any level, because this is what a business needs to know. It's a really interesting thing that project managers also do it, where they focus very much on, this is the project I've delivered, but give no context about the competencies required to deliver that project. But the problem is, the business that you are wanting to apply for, the PMO that you've been working in before could be drastically different to the one that you're going for. So it's got to come down to services and functions in order to make that crossover. Because if you talk very much about a specific type of PMO you've been in, and the new organisation looks at that and says, well, you know, that's not the kind of PMO we've got. I don't need that kind of person. You change that to functions and services and the skills and competencies around those, that's where you're likely to get more interest, because you're pushing all their buttons as well. Project managers do it all the time with projects too. Their projects are unique. Yeah? PMO's not so unique, but as a project manager, these projects are unique, and their CVs are full of, this is the project that I've delivered. But actually, they're never going to deliver that project again, ever. I want to know about the competencies that they used in order to deliver the project. And it's the same thing that we're talking about here. The other thing that we get around the career history side is that we never get this level of feeling or sense of the seniority of you. So you get a lot of people that, you know, I'm trying to get at this rate, I'm trying to get in at the market on this rate. And you look at the CV and say, I'm not surprised that people are not looking at you over $350 a day. You're looking for 600 and this CV looks like a 350. Yeah? It's because it's the way that you're providing that context. Yeah? So for example, if you're working on a transformation program that is worth X amount of pounds for the business, delivering these kind of benefits, with this kind of size of PMO, and this is the span of control, and this is how many people are delivering, whether it be projects, programs, project teams, give a sense of the size and the complexity of what it is that you're supporting. That is how you show your seniority in a marketplace. It puts you the difference between 350 a day and 600. So it's those levels of information, context, that allow us to show seniority and seriousness of what you can actually support at. Yeah? And then we have this sixth thing, which is all about achievement. It's incredibly difficult for a lot of people to think about their achievements around their career, because often what they do when they write down a key achievement on the CV is actually, that's just your job. You know, you put in place a company-wide standards methodology. Well, that's the job if you're working in that kind of PMO. That's not an achievement. That's just expected. So these are about the things that you go over and above. These are things that are different to what's expected of the job. These are the things where you start getting into. We put in a standards and a method, because actually the one we had before was meaning that our projects weren't being as successful or whatever, but actually your achievement is very much tied to a business metric. Yeah? So you're looking for, what is it that you have done within a PMO that has saved the business money, made it money, delivered more benefits than before, or whatever, percentages, all that kind of stuff. And we did something in Flashmob, which is available on the website under our report. So the last one that we did was about PMO KPIs, metrics and measures. And you have a look at that report, it should certainly make you think about, well, what KPIs, metrics and measures have I contributed to will make you a damn sight better in an interview when it comes to these kind of conversations, because it shows you've already thought about, when I put this function and service in place, or when I, the PMO analyst worked with this function and service, or improved on this function and service, I've been able to show a direct correlation with how that's benefited the business. This is a difference now between PMOs being very insular and inward-looking. You've probably heard the phrase a business-driven PMO, and I think that's where it's all been coming from. And that, to be fair, the business-driven PMO stuff has been around for about 10, 12 years now. And that's the kind of thing that's been driving that market for PMO as a service, because we want to be able to show that PMO is there to add value to a business, and that value is worth X or Y. That's where PMO is going, getting away from this problem that we have about being undervalued. Final thing on the CV, I spent a little bit more time on this because I think most people, when they come to a session like this, probably want me to talk about this kind of stuff a lot. But I thought I'd do something different today. But if you do want to know more about CVs, just come to us in whichever shape, form you want, LinkedIn, through the website, whatever. But just finally, a lot of people do ask about the way that a lot of people in their hiring are looking. Actually, they're only looking as far back as either 10 years or the last couple of roles. When you're going right back into history, as much as you've really loved a job and done a really great job of something, but actually if it's 15 years ago, it's not important anymore. Really sorry, but they are only looking more recently. So this means that you can free up space, yeah? So it's the 80-20 rule. So just spend most time on that front page, at least to get the profile, career history, perhaps some key skills in the first job on that first page, and then the rest of it starts to tail off. But I guess I could talk about this stuff for hours, but I won't. So, mention that V word. I hate the V word, always hated it. You're a value add, you want to add value, value, it's a bit of a, wishy-washy word. However, I put it in the presentation, so being a hypocrite. But the thing that we find a lot of with through flash mobs and stuff is people chatting about what it is they're doing, and they'll turn up on a Thursday night, all huffing and puffing, they've come from work, it's Tuesday nightmare, blah, blah, blah. And a really crap day at work. And it's because, a lot of the time, it's like, we do this work, we spend all this time on it, we've been doing this thing, and the business is not bloody bothered. We see all the admin support, or, we spent all this time putting this process together and everybody's ignoring it and blah, blah, blah. And this is actually, rather than you putting up with it, there's better PMOs out there in the world, yeah? You don't have to put up with it. That doesn't have to be your life. There are decent PMOs out there that do want people, that are passionate about what they're doing, that give it their all, and, want to help a business succeed. So if you feel like you're being undervalued and can't have those difficult conversations on taking that somewhere else, because let's face it, some company cultures, that's never going to be an option. It's just to let you know that actually there are other places out there that do recognise PMO, more and more so. Because the work that goes on in the industry, okay, fair enough, some of the stuff that sometimes it feels like flash mob, it sounds a bit of a joke, a bit fun, but you know what? We're making some impacts with businesses to get them to re-look at PMO, of being a very serious career, with a very solid career path, right from, the graduate level, right through to the board level. There's all those things in between. Some businesses, are always going to want people to just do some admin stuff. That's fine, but if you're not in that space, don't sit there and moan about it. Start thinking about how you can be valued by moving on somewhere. Okay, so hard skills, aka soft skills. Now, one thing, again, we've noticed a lot at Flashmob is about all of these things. So rather than saying conflict management skills, presentation skills, actually these are the things that if you just try to distill it a bit more about where they're finding issues with perhaps being valued or perhaps being able to build some relationships with senior execs, because if they could do better at that, perhaps the PMO would be moving on leaps and bounds. But actually what we find a lot of the time in the PMO is that it takes on the personality of the person that manages it. Now, if that person that's managing it or leading it has a problem in any of these areas, you see it filter down in the whole culture of a PMO. So this part of the presentation, so looking about how you get ahead in PMO, if you look at a lot of this stuff, it's about confidence. It's about the self-confidence stuff around what it is that you're doing, and the ability to talk to people and to get up on stage and all of that kind of stuff. Just out of interest, how many people in this room now would feel comfortable with getting up on stage at a PMO event only, right? So just nice PMO people, stand up on stage and talk for 5 minutes about your PMO. How many people would do that now as a drop of a hat? No. I want everybody to get their hands up, because that is the kind of skill set which needed in a PMO. Because you think about PMO's done some good work, you need to get in front of the stakeholders and tell them about that. Is that not public speaking if you've got them all in the room together? So these are some of the things that, again, what we found about things like flash mob is that a lot of people that turned up for the first few times are like scared to death. Thinking, God, networking is so embarrassing, it's awful. And it is awful sometimes when you go networking and you walk in and nobody's talking to you and all that kind of thing. But what we've found consistently over doing it for the last 6 years, you see people have come on leaps and bounds. We've seen people that walked in that first day like wallflowers that have been promoted and promoted and promoted over those 6-7 years. And it's because you do things, you push yourself to do some of this stuff. You might take formal training in some of this stuff, but ultimately, for PMO people is to develop, we all know projects are all about the people, yeah? So we know that the hard skills, aka soft skills, are all about getting people to do stuff. So we're going to be thinking about, to get ahead in our careers, we can't avoid this. So are you prepared to put yourself in a position that gets you to push yourself on some of this stuff? It's there. That's some of the things that we're thinking about. One of the things that we've had on one of the courses that's quite interesting, we do an expert level course, which is for people that are running kind of like enterprise level PMOs. Some of them are large organisations that can have many, many PMOs. You know, if you imagine being an enterprise PMO and you've got about 40 or 50 PMOs within your business, they're like properly running massive things. And what is interesting when you talk to some of those people, some of them suffer from that thing called imposter syndrome. You've heard that, yeah? And we think we're all like just winging it and hoping we're not going to get found out. Even people at that level suffer from all of that. So even if you're at the junior end of getting into this role, just remember that we're all got a little bit of imposter syndrome in there, and that we're not all brilliant, you know, because half of the time it's just bullshit and bravado, you know. Anyway, so next thing, number 4, what's the box? Right, so what's the box? This is a really interesting one. So when you get people come to the stand and they'll say, especially some people who have never been to a thing like this, so they've never actually had to introduce themselves to somebody else. Yeah, so they'll come to the stand and say, hello, so what do you do? And then it's easier, because I'm guessing it's something to do with project management, which is fine, and maybe something to do with PMO, which is equally fine. But I want to know what box you're in, so I can then help to find out what you want or need or whatever. Yeah? And it is exactly the same with whoever you speak to, both internally in your organisation or externally. At various different points in your career, you'll be talking to people like recruitment agents, so if you're looking for a new job, or you might find yourself in this position, which is when you're in the elevator. Right, elevator pitch, we've all heard of it, yeah? Put your hands up if you've not heard of an elevator pitch. It's really interesting. I did brought up this similar thing at this event about 5 years ago, and about half the audience wouldn't have heard that bit about what is an elevator pitch. But what I would say to you is, have you thought about what your elevator pitch actually is? Because at some point, it's key points in your career, somebody's going to ask you, what is it that you do? And you're going to be giving them a captivating, short answer that is going to invite more question. Yeah? So you want to know what box you are. So example would be, I'm a project support officer and I work for a local council and I'm working within a transformation team, and some of the core things that we're doing there at the moment and focusing on are things like benefits management. We've got a bit of a problem with that, but equally one of the things that are really shit hot on is resource management. That is a great introduction. That is a thing that tells me you are absolutely on the nail in terms of being a good PMO practitioner. You know how to put across exactly what it is you do. Because you'll get people that will come up and say, yeah, he's working PMO, it's just project support, it's just doing some admin stuff. That's it. Hello? This is about being able to put across the professionalism of what it is that you do. Yeah. He's thinking about that elevator pitch. So, for example, we did a breakfast briefing last Friday morning, of which, if you've signed up to get details from us, this session has just gone out today on the blog for PMO learning, because there's a lot of different roles and opportunities now in PMO, as we all know. And we talked about it last week. So it's about knowing what box you are. Okay, so in the wider scheme of things that are going on in the PMO world, these are the kind of core of what you will see. So rather than just saying program office or portfolio office, this is from your perspective as a practitioner. These are the core types of roles and therefore the opportunities that exist. Yeah. So at that end, nothing wrong with support and admin. Lots of businesses need that in terms of their projects and programs. Fine. It's a great entry-level thing for graduates, apprentice, all of that kind of stuff. Fantastic. This is where a lot of people make their money, in being something like project and program support. So, generally being a PMO analyst or whatever. So those things are quite commonly known about. Then there's this elevated role, more around the guidance stuff. So we sometimes hear it called Centre of Excellence. Yeah, something like that. So we're looking for, what is it that we're doing across the business in terms of putting in the standards and the processes and the governance and all that kind of thing. So hopefully you're recognising at the moment where you are so far, yeah. And then we're on to portfolio support. So these are the roles we see. These are the opportunities that exist. So the portfolio support is more about the prioritisation and benefits. And it's really interesting. We've had a chap at the stand today, 2 things that he'd like to focus and do better on: portfolio prioritisation and benefits management. It just happen to be the 2 things there too. So there's a lot of talk about that. And then, here we go, this is the benefits management piece, which is about the business wanting to understand, we do these projects and programs, so what benefits are we getting? So the PMO does have a role in the wider business to be able to report and show what these things are, analyse them, etc. And then there's the final bit here, which is about the portfolio guidance. And there's a lot of people at this level now, that are more focus and attention on this. So we have not only trying to bridge this difference between here's a strategy and here's the projects and programs down here that help to deliver that strategy, and in the middle has always been this area where it could be a portfolio office or some kind of EPM or whatever that is the glue between those two. But actually there's also a lot of people that are actually getting involved in terms of strategy development or strategy formation. So these level roles where in some breaths you're having conversations with people not valuing you because all you do is sit there and do timesheets every week, this is where the opportunities are going. Yeah. So if this is where you want to be, it's time to start thinking about where you could seek those out. And a great firm to help you along the way is PMO Learning and PMO Flash Mob. Number 5 is about practice. Now, one of the things that we talk about a lot is that when we want good PMO people, there's 2 things that we want. We want people to understand what the textbook says, which is the formal training bit, or is buying the book and is reading it. We want to understand what the principles are that drive your PMO and drive you. And then there's the gut, because the gut's based on ultimately on your experience. So we want people to be able to understand what best practice is, and then through their own experiences and their gut and all that kind of stuff, to get the good practice, the practical stuff. We talk about the principles. There's some on the stand over there. There's been a book published which talks about the PMO principles, and one of them is about pragmatism. That's what we need in PMO. Yeah, just as we say to project managers, don't go on a Prince 2 course and deliver a project against Prince 2. We want pragmatism. It's exactly the same way it comes to a good practice in PMO land. Yeah, so there are things like P3O training and AI PMO training and BCS training, but actually understand what the textbook's saying, and then we want to know how we're making this really work. Yeah? That's what we look for. Yeah. So if you're just going on a training course to so it looks good on the CV, it's fine, but ultimately, when it comes to being recruited or actually doing the job, it's the 2, 3, 4 that make the real difference. There's the PMO principles. There's a handout, or should be an handout left, which just highlights what those are, but there's a book that sits behind it. And then on the PMO Flashmob website, we have a section for reports. They're called Inside PMO. I think we've run out of all those today. But essentially, this is real PMO managers talking about the realities of this stuff. So when it comes to this one here about Agile, there's textbooks telling you how to manage both traditional and Agile projects together in one business. How do you govern those? How do you report on them? What's the PMO supposed to do? There's stuff there, but actually this is about understanding what PMOs really do and getting these people around the table that have had to do this job and asking them, how have you done it? So those reports are about the realities of these people. And number 6, teach. And all I'm going to say there is that they say that if you think you really know something, try teaching it to somebody else. So if you are sitting here and you're quite, I quite know this kind of stuff, what we've found is that PMOs, good PMOs are doing a lot more teaching within their business to their projects and program managers. So again, if your PMO is not doing that kind of stuff, it's just to let you know that actually there's a lot of decent PMOs out there that are. Yeah. So they're not providing, here we've got a new process. There you go, just go away and do that new process. Actually, we know it doesn't work because change management doesn't work like that. But actually it's moving into the realms of being able to teach a project and a program manager. And that's not an easy thing to do. You need teaching skills. But again, there's a lot of space, and the business wants that ability in the PMO. So number 6 is teach, which rhymes with meet. So this is all about being able to get out there and see what other PMOs are doing. So this is just these at Flashmob last week. That is just purely from those people that went there last week. This is about being able to, if you're working within a PMO, how can you get better? How do you know whether your PMO that you're working in today is any good or not? Get out there, start talking to people, and you'll find out, because that will help you in your own mind about where I am in the pecking order of decent PMO stuff. You can only do it when you benchmark, and in benchmark just by going to something like this and having a beer while you're doing it. So why would you not? So this is about going out there to be able to understand where you are in the whole PMO schemes of things. Because sometimes you feel like we're crap. But sometimes you go to these things, you think, well, actually, there's loads of people here that are exactly the same problems that I've got, so that's made me feel better straight away. So, what can I do now to try and change that? That happens a lot. This bit about never stop being curious again came out as something last week as well, which we talked about robotic process automation, but actually, this guy made it a really good, in fact, he's on the stand down there somewhere, so if you want to talk about and want to know a little bit more about RPA, about what he's done in his PMO, the video session again is on the PMO Flashmob website this week. But one of the things that are really fascinating about this is that they only started looking at RPA because he was curious. They're saving that business money and time now just because he was curious. I keep hearing this stuff. Is it difficult? Is it hard? I don't know. Let's just have a play about with this stuff. And that's all he did, was just be curious and try it. And when he's had to go down the process of, I need to get the business back in on this. But you know what? When somebody comes with enthusiasm and passion and just, this is just right for the business because of X, Y, and Z and all this, you've got to be that kind of person. I think PMOs are going to be at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. We got caught out when Agile came down the line. The senior execs have been to the breakfast briefings. This Agile stuff, it's going to be great. It's going to sort out all our projects. We'll deliver products faster to market. Blah, blah. So, come back to the business breakfast briefing. We want to do this Agile stuff. PMO, tell us how we're going to do this Agile stuff. And all of them were just like, well, I don't know. And this is what's going to happen with some of the automation. You keep hearing AI, machine learning, chatbots, RPA, all of this stuff. We have to get curious, because somebody at some point is going to come to you in your business and say, we need to start doing something about that. And you're going to be really, ta-da, this is what we could do, because we've already been thinking about it. That's how you show the V word to the business. Being a mentor is a really interesting one if we backtrack to the bits about the hard skills. Because look at this. Look at the things that you have to be a decent mentor. So it's not about training. This is now about relationship stuff. And we've said that we need to get better at hard stuff, which is all about relationships and confidence building and all this. All of this, actually, you, which I want to be a mentor, find a mentor, blah, blah, you, regardless of what level you are, you can be a project support officer that's been working for a year. You can still find somebody who would love to have you as a mentor. There's always somebody that wants to learn something. There's always somebody who's slightly behind you, but would really like you to help them out. And what's really fantastic, when I used to work in PMO going way back, this book that came out in 1997 is fantastic. It's a little workbook thing. It's old, but it's bloody brilliant. So part of the thing that you've been filling out today is if you want copies of these two things, we're going to send that out to you, okay? But if you look at the Be a Mentor, look at all the things that it's asking you to do. These are things that are all about the soft skills, hard skills, type of development. Where do I start to build up my confidence around relationship management? Well, why don't you start here? Because that feels kind of risk-free, because you're also going to be putting something back and being able to think about, actually, you know what, I am really quite good at my job, you know? And sometimes it's only when you start to have to mentor somebody else that it all starts to come out. And you'll be surprised at how different and the impact it has on you as an individual. Not as a mentee, but as that mentor. It's pretty amazing. So it's time to have a think about something like that. And again, it doesn't matter how experienced you are in the whole PMO land, okay? So number 10, you're thinking, oh Christ, not journaling, that sounds all a bit new age and blah, blah, blah. However, what I found with things like journaling is that there's different types. So you can have things which are about, the spiritual journaling type stuff, and things like gratitude journaling, where it's like, it's all around things like getting over stressful situations and having that self-reflection and stuff like that. But there's a couple that I think are pretty good for to PMO type people. The first one's around learning stuff. Because what I've found is that a lot of the stuff that I've learned along the way is because I'm doing a form of journaling. You think about how many thoughts and ideas that you have every time you see a session, a webinar. You might scribble some stuff down in a notepad, but actually, you look at the online journaling for a start. It allows you to keep logs and all that kind of self-reflection stuff and that kind of thing. Well, this kind of stuff on the left-hand side is mine, which is I go to a session and somebody's giving me a presentation. I'm going to do it in a format that works for me. But it's made me better in terms of the work that I'm doing around PMO, which is trying to make connections and dots, because I'm really thinking about what I'm learning about. I'm making notes on it rather than just sitting there. I'm being able to go back and pull it out when I need to. I'm finding connections in different places and stuff like that. So if you think about it from a PMO point of view, if you're a manager especially, you know that you can do journaling as a team, which is fantastic. Because actually journaling can just be one word or a sentence. If you really can't be asked to get into the whole sitting down and writing stuff, which you should do, you should try it for like a week or something and see if you truly can't be bothered. But you can say that you can just have one word or a sentence every single day about your reflection of that day. Or if you journaling for to-do lists and all that kind of, there's so many types of journals out there and lots of different things that people do. But again, I think what is interesting is that we can have them for learning and we can have them in the workplace as an ideas capture or to try and tap into your inner creativity, or there's so many different types. But I think it's about that self-reflection bit. As you are a professional, There's no doubt about it that if you are managing a PMO, that is a significant role within a business. And it's this kind of stuff, it's stuff and thoughts that are going through your head every day. Journaling can actually help you tremendously in so many different types of ways. So that's just 10 things that I wanted to talk about in terms of this. I told you a bit of a lucky dip. So lots of different aspects of careers, and there's another 20 that I didn't talk about, and I've got a really long list of different things. But with Flashmob, we're coming to the end now, so I just want to talk about what we're doing at Flashmob and hope that you'll get behind us and get involved, because that's what we need, is people that are passionate about PMO. So these are some of the things we've done in the past. Yes, it's got a bit of a jokey feel to it and all that, but it's a serious intent at its heart. It just doesn't mean that you have to do it in a really boring corporate-y way. So sometimes we get together and have quizzes. Yes, we have a PMO quiz, very geeky, but you know, it works. It gets people talking about what it is that they're doing. They find out answers from each other. They meet up out of the PMO Flashmob space. They find out where people work. They say, oh, you know, let's meet for a coffee one day. All of that kind of stuff. Plus, they're learning about some of the stuff that's bothering them at the moment. So those are some of the past things that we've had. These are some of the things that are coming up, okay, which is just covered up that one. That's really crap. Okay, so the next one is October. We're doing 2x2. You know, like 2x2 matrix when you're like, you know, the stakeholder analysis, and it's a 2x2 thing. Our objective for that night, with copious amounts of beer and pizza, is we're going to learn about lots of different 2x2s. So it means we can like look at different aspects of business and projects and all the rest of it. But we want to come up with a PMO 2x2. So it's, yeah, mental, but you know what, it just gets people to walk into a networking environment and to just get on with it and click and just, you know, not feel like this is awful and I want to go home. We've got a data storyteller flying in from, she's at a conference, she comes from Las Vegas, she's amazing. That's at Channel 4 in the cinema room. Loads of stuff there, it's been fantastic. That's November. We've got Stand Up for PMO, which is our full day thing, and if you've not seen that, go and get the leaflet there, because that's fab. And then we've got the next PMO Manager's Lunch, which makes those reports, is all about artificial intelligence, all of that stuff, and anybody doing it, because we want to really know and learn off you, and that's that. And then we've got the training side of stuff, which is coaching skills. We've got this one here, a new one, setting up a PMO, Lean Agile PMO. We've got these certificates that come from the Association for International PMOs. PMO is this, all this stuff, you know? You look back, 10, 12, 50, there's nothing. But look at the diversity of all this stuff that we've got to know about. Project manager only has to know about delivering a project. We've got to know about delivering projects, programs, portfolios, standards, methods, business analysis, data, leadership, all of this stuff. And you tell me it's a boring job? Hopefully you enjoyed the session today. I haven't got time for questions.